My name is Benson Boone. I'm 18 years old, and I'm from Monroe, Washington.
In a stunning twist that caught both fans and producers off guard, Benson Boone, once hailed as the next big star on American Idol, abruptly vanished from the competition just as the live broadcast rounds were set to begin, leaving behind a trail of confusion and unanswered questions. Having secured his golden ticket and advanced with ease to the top 24, Benson appeared to be on a direct path to fame, even earning praise from Judge Katy Perry, who dubbed him a natural-born star. But as the televised episodes rolled out, his name was conspicuously missing. No explanation was given by the network. No exit package. No goodbye montage. Just silence. The void left viewers scratching their heads and ignited a wave of speculation across social media platforms. Was it stage fright? A conflict with the show's producers? Or something deeper and more personal? Whispers of behind-the-scenes drama swirled, while die-hard fans pieced together TikTok clips and interview snippets in hopes of solving the mystery. But in a rare and revealing interview later that year, Benson finally broke his silence, not with scandal, but with sincerity. He admitted that while he was grateful for the Idol opportunity, he realized the show wasn't the right fit for him. The polished glitz of reality television clashed with his desire for creative freedom and emotional authenticity. He didn't want to sing songs chosen by others, judged by a format that didn't feel true to who he was becoming. "I wanted a space where my songs come from my heart," he said, "not a contest's rules." It was a decision that could have cost him everything: television exposure, record deals, and the fan base that typically comes with Idol's platform. But instead of fading into obscurity, his departure became a defining moment. It painted him not as a quitter, but as an artist unwilling to compromise his integrity. While others might have clung to the spotlight, Benson Boone stepped away from it, only to later command it entirely on his own terms. And what followed would flip the script on every doubter watching from the sidelines. Long before Benson Boone became a viral music sensation and Grammy-nominated artist, he was just another teenager from Monroe, Washington, a quiet town nestled in the Pacific Northwest, with a population barely crossing 20,000. Born on June 25, 2002, Benson was the second of 5 siblings, raised in a close-knit household by parents Nate and Carrie, who owned local businesses far removed from the world of entertainment. In this sleepy corner of America, his life revolved around athletics, not artistry. Benson was an accomplished diver at Monroe High School, regularly dominating regional meets and earning medals for his athleticism. Music at this stage was nothing more than background noise, a hobby he hadn't yet realized had any potential. That all changed during his senior year, thanks to a twist of fate that would quietly ignite a superstar career. When a friend backed out of the school talent show at the last minute, Benson, who had never sung in front of an audience, volunteered to fill in. With 0 stage experience, he sat at a piano and began to sing. What followed was nothing short of electric. His voice, filled with vulnerability and raw talent, stunned the room into silence before erupting in applause. The cheers lingered well after he stepped off stage, and so did something else, a spark that had been lit inside him. That unexpected performance revealed a gift he had never truly considered. From that moment on, music was no longer a side project. It became an obsession. Benson began teaching himself piano chords and vocal techniques through YouTube tutorials, recording rough covers on his phone, and uploading them to the internet. What began as a spontaneous fill-in act at a school event quickly snowballed into a passionate pursuit that would overtake everything else in his life. Little did anyone in Monroe realize, the boy who once made waves in a swimming pool was now preparing to make even bigger ones on the global stage. But that quiet transformation was just getting started, and what happened next would defy every expectation. There was once a time when the names Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton were mentioned in the same breath. 2 Yardbirds alums, 2 guitar legends, 2 pillars of British blues. But while the world kept pairing them as equals, Beck grew increasingly frustrated by what he viewed as Clapton's creative cowardice. Clapton, revered as a blues rock icon, chose to preserve the past, faithfully recreating licks and progressions like a devout historian curating a sonic museum. Beck, on the other hand, wanted to destroy the museum and build a spaceship with the pieces. According to blues historian Paul Trinka, Beck privately said Clapton was afraid to disturb the blues exhibits, implying that Eric had become a gatekeeper of tradition, blocking out innovation for the comfort of nostalgia. This wasn't just artistic difference. It was philosophical warfare. Beck believed the blues, like all music, should evolve, breathe, mutate. Clapton treated it like sacred scripture. What irked Beck most wasn't the music, it was the acclaim. Clapton was hailed as the blues master, yet Beck felt that title belonged to those daring enough to push the genre into new galaxies. While Jeff was experimenting with fusion, funk, electronics, and atmospheric textures, Clapton was rehashing standards that Jeff believed were long overdue for reinvention. The real dagger came from critics and fans who, Beck believed, worshipped Clapton for playing it safe, while ignoring his own risk-laden journeys. In a rare moment of public candor, Beck once said, "The blues greats were revolutionaries, not reenactors." For him, Clapton's path was stagnation dressed as reverence. And when audiences rewarded that with endless praise, Beck didn't see it as homage. He saw it as betrayal. A betrayal of progress, of experimentation, and of the instrument's future. To the world, Clapton was slow hand, but to Beck, he was standing still. Long before Led Zeppelin reigned supreme over rock's Olympus, there were two guitarists in the Yardbirds, each gifted, each ambitious, and each secretly destined for legend. But while Jimmy Page became a household name and Zeppelin soared to mythic status, Jeff Beck was left with a wound that never quite healed. Their rivalry wasn't born from clashing tones or technique, but from something far deeper: credit, recognition, and the ghost of what might have been. According to Yardbirds historian Greg Russo, Beck privately accused Page of building an empire on our ideas, claiming Zeppelin's early sound was molded from innovations the two once explored together. When Page stayed and Beck left, it wasn't just a lineup change. It was the splitting of a creative nucleus. Beck believed he had laid the foundation, and Page had taken the keys and locked him out. While Beck chased experimental glory through ever-evolving sonic landscapes, Page rode Zeppelin to stadium domination, magazine covers, and historical legacy. What stung the most? That Page was often credited as the Yardbirds' chief visionary, despite Beck's role in pioneering techniques that later defined Zeppelin's sound. Page, for his part, rarely spoke ill of Beck, but Beck, in private, couldn't let go of what he saw as a theft not of riffs, but of legacy. He once reportedly said, "He didn't just take the music, he took the narrative." And that narrative placed Page as the guitar god, while Beck remained the cult genius. The contrast between them, Page, mystical and business savvy, Beck, volatile and uncompromising, created a dramatic split in public perception. While Jimmy was writing anthems of thunder, Beck was in a workshop of tones, refining the art. But the pain remained. Not because Page succeeded, but because, in Beck's eyes, it was built on their shared experiments, with only one of them reaping the historic applause. For Beck, the notes were secondary. It was the silence that followed, the unspoken erasure that hurt the most. After graduating from high school in 2020, Benson Boone briefly enrolled at Brigham Young University in Idaho, majoring in graphic design, a safe, creative path that many would consider a smart backup plan. But for Benson, the pull of music had become too strong to ignore. College life, with its lecture halls and structured curriculum, quickly lost its appeal. After just one semester, he made a daring decision. He dropped out, packed up, and returned home to chase a dream that had only recently begun to take shape. With no record label, no industry connections, and no formal training, Benson turned to the one stage where talent still had a chance to speak louder than credentials: TikTok. He began uploading raw, emotional singing videos, filmed in the dim lighting of his bedroom with nothing but his voice, a piano, and a phone camera. There were no fancy edits, no viral gimmicks, just authenticity, and that proved to be his secret weapon. His striking looks, emotional delivery, and sincere performances began resonating with viewers in a way that manufactured pop acts couldn't replicate. The audience didn't just hear his music, they felt it. In just a few months, he amassed over 1 million followers, each video pulling in hundreds of thousands of likes and shares. But this wasn't a case of overnight fame built on a single lucky hit. Benson didn't ride a trend. He created a connection. While other creators on the platform chased quick virality with dances or comedic skits, Benson kept his head down and his heart open, crafting a body of work that felt intimate and deeply personal. His steady climb on TikTok became proof that in the digital age, honesty still had power. Fans weren't just watching, they were waiting, anticipating his next post like chapters in a story. His following became his first true fan base, a digital community that rooted for his rise. And this quiet momentum would soon carry him to an audition room that could have changed his life. If only he hadn't chosen to walk away. But that decision, too, was just one verse in a much larger song still being written. In 2021, after months of building a loyal TikTok following, Benson Boone took a leap many aspiring artists only dream about. He auditioned for season 19 of American Idol. His performance left the judges speechless, with Katy Perry declaring him a star who was destined for greatness. From the early audition stages to the competitive Hollywood round, Benson breezed through, securing a spot in the coveted top 24. Millions of viewers were primed to witness his televised debut. But just before the broadcast episodes were set to air, he vanished without a trace. No performance, no announcement, no explanation. Fans who had followed his journey were left puzzled, and conspiracy theories began to swirl. Was he cut unexpectedly? Was there drama backstage? Or had something gone terribly wrong? For weeks, the silence surrounding his exit only deepened the intrigue. But when Benson finally spoke publicly about his decision, the truth wasn't rooted in scandal. It was rooted in principle. In a 2021 interview, he revealed that the American Idol machine, while glittering with opportunity, didn't align with who he wanted to be as an artist. He wasn't afraid of the spotlight, but he was wary of the limitations that came with it. The rules, the structure, the perform or perish mentality, it all felt wrong. He wanted to create music that reflected his soul, not content tailored for reality TV narratives or shaped by judges' expectations. "I wanted a space where my songs come from my heart, not a contest's rules," he said. For a young artist on the brink of fame, walking away from a national platform might have seemed like career suicide. But Benson's move revealed something rare in the entertainment industry: self-awareness and discipline. He wasn't interested in being a product of a show. He wanted to be an artist on his own terms. That decision, courageous and controversial, would come to define the very authenticity that would later catapult him into global stardom. In the moment, it looked like a retreat, but in hindsight, it was the exact moment Benson Boone began writing the story no one else dared to tell. And that story was only just beginning. In the golden age of guitar innovation, Eddie Van Halen rose like a lightning bolt, tapping, sliding, and shredding his way into the heart of every teenager with a radio. But while the world worshipped his blazing fingers and stage-scorching solos, Jeff Beck watched from afar with clenched teeth and clenched principles. To Beck, Eddie wasn't a musical prophet. He was a gymnast in disguise, dazzling crowds with pyrotechnics that, in Jeff's view, lacked emotional gravity. Beck, who was known for weaving entire landscapes with subtle bends, unorthodox phrasing, and atmospheric tone, reportedly believed that Van Halen's brand of showmanship confused athleticism with artistry. According to Rolling Stone insiders, Beck described Eddie as a circus performer whose genius stopped at his fingers, never quite making it to the soul. While Eddie was blowing up arenas with his Frankenstein guitar and reimagining what the fretboard could do, Beck was quietly toying with synthesizers, jazz modals, and ambient textures, trying to stretch the guitar's emotional vocabulary. Their rivalry wasn't one of public spats. It was ideological warfare. Jeff once allegedly quipped, "Innovation isn't playing faster. It's playing deeper." What stung most for Beck was not Eddie's fame. It was how the industry crowned him a revolutionary for, in Beck's eyes, little more than finger calisthenics. A quote from an early 80s interview lingers in legend, where Beck, asked about Van Halen, replied, "It's like watching someone juggle chainsaws. Impressive, sure, but where's the music?" Despite their mutual admiration from a distance, Jeff never fully respected Eddie's approach, believing it ushered in a generation of copycat shredders more interested in finger speed than feeling. As Eddie racked up platinum albums and magazine covers, Beck remained the stoic outsider, unwilling to sacrifice depth for spectacle. The irony? While Eddie often cited Beck as an early influence, Beck quietly resented the monster that influence had helped create. In the end, it wasn't a feud. It was a lament, a mournful cry from one of music's most precise craftsmen, who watched the world cheer for the fireworks while ignoring the fire. At the speed of light and with the ferocity of a thunderclap, Yngwie Malmsteen blazed into the guitar scene like a Viking warrior with a Stratocaster, shredding through classical scales and Baroque-inspired solos with terrifying precision. But in Jeff Beck's world, where notes were chosen like brushstrokes in a Monet painting, Yngwie's blinding speed and technical arrogance were nothing short of musical heresy. While fans were left breathless by Malmsteen's neoclassical style, Beck was reportedly left nauseous, calling it karaoke Bach for headbangers. According to former guitar player-editor Tom Wheeler, Beck scoffed at Malmsteen's acclaim, privately calling him a conservatory dropout who mistook tempo for emotion. To Beck, Yngwie wasn't a classical genius. He was a fast-fingered showboat, taking centuries of compositional beauty and reducing it to scale exercises for YouTube guitarists with ego problems. The ideological divide was immense. Beck believed in tension, silence, and tonal surprise, while Yngwie filled every second with arpeggios and vibrato that felt to Jeff like a race against silence. The worst offense? Beck felt Malmsteen didn't understand the emotional core of the music he was borrowing from. "You don't honor Vivaldi by playing him drunk on caffeine," Beck allegedly told a colleague. At a European festival, the tension boiled over when Beck, after hearing Malmsteen warm up, remarked, "This isn't classical, it's cosplay." For Beck, the guitar was not a speedometer. It was a voice. And when he saw players like Yngwie equating greatness with BPMs, he feared the instrument's soul was being traded for soulless technical perfection. Yngwie may have dazzled arenas, but to Beck, he represented a dangerous trend. Musicians who worshipped complexity, but discarded authenticity. In Beck's world, playing fast without meaning was like yelling poetry without understanding the words. And when those artists were hailed as modern-day Mozarts, to Jeff, that was a betrayal that no pedalboard could fix. In the ruthless world of music legends, where praise is easy and honesty is rare, few dared to voice their true opinions, but Jeff Beck was never one to follow the crowd. To millions, he was a guitar magician, a boundary-pushing innovator who didn't just play the electric guitar, he redefined what it could do. But behind closed studio doors and away from the glowing concert lights, Beck harbored deep-seated frustrations and unfiltered opinions about the very icons many assumed were his allies. While others collected awards and handshakes, Beck collected grudges, formed not out of petty jealousy, but from a simmering belief that most so-called guitar gods had chosen the easy road of fame over the hard climb of artistry. He was a perfectionist, sometimes brutally so, a man who viewed the instrument not as a prop for rock star ego, but as a tool for spiritual expression and sonic evolution. And when he saw others reducing it to flashy antics, blues cliches, or safe formulas, it ignited something cold and uncompromising inside him. Over the decades, this fire would fuel a string of silent rivalries and whispered criticisms aimed at some of the biggest names in music. From former bandmates to world-renowned virtuosos, Beck's list of frustrations reads like a who's who of rock history. But his issue wasn't with popularity, it was with mediocrity dressed as greatness. He believed that too many artists stopped asking questions once the applause began, and he saw this as a betrayal to the very spirit of music itself. And yet, not all these rivalries were purely professional. Some were born from betrayal, some from creative disrespect, and others from a deep ache that only true artists can feel when brilliance is exchanged for radio play. Today, we peel back the polished image of camaraderie and reveal the raw nerve behind Beck's legendary status. Because while fans may remember the licks, solos, and studio wizardry, those who worked beside him remember something far more intense. A man who demanded excellence, rejected compromise, and wasn't afraid to call out the giants he believed had let the instrument down. And what happened when those icons found out? Well, that's where the real story begins. When the streets of Sunset Boulevard were ablaze with leather jackets, cigarettes, and unruly riffs, Slash and Guns N' Roses emerged as the new gods of rebellion, raw, loud, and unapologetically primal. But not everyone in the pantheon of guitar heroes was clapping. In the hushed circles of studio pros and backstage technicians, Jeff Beck was allegedly fuming. To him, Slash wasn't a revelation. He was a reminder of everything wrong with the mainstream's obsession with image over integrity. Beck, who spent decades painstakingly crafting a new language for the guitar, one rooted in fusion, texture, and emotional nuance, reportedly viewed Slash's rise as a 3-chord tantrum, rewarded by an audience hypnotized by eyeliner and swagger. It wasn't that Beck denied Slash's talent. On the contrary, according to Guitar World insiders, he openly admitted that Slash had the raw goods. But what bothered him deeply was how that gift was being squandered on what he called adolescent blues rock that mistakes volume for sophistication and confusion for rebellion. As Guns N' Roses topped charts and soaked up MTV screen time in the late 80s, Beck was in the shadows, constructing layered soundscapes, integrating jazz harmonics with electronic textures, and watching from a distance as the world embraced what he believed was a watered-down echo of musical expression. The rivalry wasn't televised, but it simmered fiercely behind the scenes. Studio engineers claimed Beck scoffed at Slash's popularity, allegedly calling it circus performance with a top hat, and warning young guitarists not to mistake flash for depth. It wasn't just philosophical, it was personal. Witnesses at a recording studio in Los Angeles recall an icy encounter where Beck, after hearing a Slash solo playback, muttered, "Talent without curiosity becomes noise with a fan base." For Beck, Slash represented a cultural betrayal. The world had chosen speed, hair and swagger over substance, innovation, and risk. And in that choice, Beck saw the decline of the guitar as a thinking man's instrument. While Slash was immortalized as the face of 80s rock rebellion, Beck quietly sharpened his sonic blade, unwilling to bend to trends or chase crowd approval. In his eyes, the guitar wasn't supposed to make you look cool. It was supposed to make you feel something you didn't even know was inside you. And watching Slash turn it into a fashion accessory, that was to Beck the ultimate distortion.